Hi, welcome back. I'm Nathan, this is Lauren, and this is your July 2025 4Thought.
Yeah.
So you're doing what a lot of clients probably aren't doing right now because it's July. So you're traveling, you're going to see friends, you're going to see family, you're going to the beach, you're going to the shore, you're going to the lake, wherever you're going. We know a lot of you are probably not reading each and every email from Nathan and Lauren or watching all of our videos.
Yeah, listening to more financial news, just what you needed to relax on a long summer vacation.
Right. But you are not like them. You're special.
Thank you for doing it.
That's right. They're not like us. You're not like that. I know that's a deep cut, but I'm going to leave it in there.
Beyond my generation.
I listened to something recently that I thought we could talk about today, that I thought would be interesting to discuss with you, which is I heard a writer that we've referenced a lot in our newsletters, Morgan Housel. He was in an interview recently, and he was talking about successful investors and successful investing. And it made me think when he said, a lot of successful investors, they have a wide funnel. I'm going to get this right here. A wide funnel, narrow filter.
Yeah.
Right. So they're accepting in a lot of information at all times, which is what we talk about a lot in terms of even why we do the newsletter is there's a lot of noise. And we want to be, different from the noise, sending a signal to you that's maybe about things that we think are more important to focus on financially speaking in order to be successful.
Yeah, in the old days, we used to say clarity, not complexity.
Clarity, not complexity.
I mean, it's definitely, any type of news source, which I don't know how you can avoid it, it feels like drinking from a fire hose.
Yeah, it really is. And now more than ever.
Yeah, now more than ever.
So he said this, and I was like, okay, well, I get what he's saying. You're taking in this information, but and some of that information might be upsetting. It might be alarming. It might be worrisome. Now,
maybe it's designed to do this.
Yes, maybe. And, and it's always been that way. And it's, it's even more so today because I think we have our devices and we have mobile devices, et cetera. But I mean, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, there's always been something to worry about. So he was talking about how successful investors can filter that down because how much of that information is going to be important to you financially.
Yeah, and sometimes that much information causes paralysis.
Right.
So we used to call it analysis paralysis.
Right.
The more information you have, the more time you're wasting and decisions are getting away from you.
Right.
And some decisions have to be made sooner rather than later.
Right.
So I think that's important.
Yeah, so it made me think about, okay, that's a trait, a characteristic.
Sure, it's a smart thing to do, yeah.
Yeah, a smart thing to do. And what makes investors, quote unquote, smart? Intelligence is one thing. What I'm talking about is
like a wisdom that comes along with that. Intellect, yeah.
Right.
Yep.
So wisdom versus just intellect. Like what makes you wise as an investor? And some of the characteristics of over 40 years of combined
so crazy when you say
service
that. Not talking about me.
Clients. Yeah, you've been doing this a long time. Not 40 years individually, but 40 plus years collectively.
Yeah, 40 plus
that
years
we've been doing this.
Right.
So a long time. And some of the traits that we've seen, characteristics that we've seen our best clients have that help them be even more successful, and the ones that maybe that don't have these as easily available to them, that
or don't have all of them, right?
Right.
Yep.
We're trying to help.
How do we foster those? Yeah.
So number one, I would say let's talk about three things. And if I miss something, you tell me. Maybe there's more, but three
sounds like enough
things.
for today.
We'll go with three. So it was definitely a wide funnel, narrow filter. So being able to kind of take, let's say 98% of that information, maybe 99, isn't really useful for you to act on.
Correct.
To help you be more successful in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, et cetera. Right? Yeah. That's number one. I think that's an important thing. Anything you want to add on that, or my?
I always have a lot to add, unfortunately, but I'll try to make it short. No, I think, how do you filter those things down? Yep. And I think we get away from that conversation. What's important to you? That's what we try to do when we have conversations. The reason we want to get together, have phone calls, do these types of things. Everyone is different. My mom was right. Everyone's a unique person.
Special.
They're special. Maybe she was saying that in a different way to me. But and until we know what those things are, then we can't help you filter out the noise because it's different for everyone.
Right.
So that's all. I promise. I'm done with that one. Next.
No, that's great. So the second thing would be FOMO. Fear of missing out. For those that aren't familiar with that, but fear of missing out. And I think, especially in the last few years, I feel like maybe more than ever, you talk to your friends, you talk to your neighbor, you talk to your in-law, you talk to your colleague.
And it's just like you said, it's the delivery method. So it's a podcast. Uh-huh. It's any kind of social media that's putting something out there that everyone's doing. This
is the best thing. This is the next best thing.
And you're the only person that isn't doing
You're
it.
missing out on some strategy that's going to be a 10x and it's going to change your life.
Everything's 10x.
And I think that fear of missing out drives people to make a lot of bad decisions.
Sure. Or again, like we said, not smart decisions.
Yeah,
right?
not smart decisions.
So all feelings are real. I say it all the time, even though Nathan's younger than me. I'm still sensitive, new age 90s guy. All feelings are real, but acting on certain feelings is wrong.
Right.
Acting on other feelings is right. Those are the things that we can say are wrong or right. Feelings are never wrong and right, but it's the way you interact with the world based on your feelings that can cause some negative consequences that we want to help people avoid.
Avoid those. So the fear of missing out, I think, would be number 2. And trying to, as you say, everyone probably has some of that, but how to control that, how to make sure you're not acting upon that in the wrong way. And I think it leads into patience.
Yep.
The fear of missing out might be, hey, well, this person or these people told me about this idea that's going to go from, it's going to take me from here to where I want to be, like instantaneously, and and there's some shortcut. But in reality, a lot of shortcuts, you can see all the time, and a lot of shortcuts probably, aren't the right path for you, because they're also going to add in a lot of additional risks and a lot of additional things.
And those are the things that you never hear about in those conversations about the perfect thing. So crypto, the perfect thing? Maybe not. What are the pros and the cons?
Right.
Are precious metals the perfect thing?
Commodities. I want to do this. I want to invest in AI stocks because
and
that's
only
the
AI
future.
stocks.
Just that. I just want technology. They've been the best. That's been the best sector. So why isn't more of my portfolio there? I want to invest in these or one specific company. You hear those things, and so having patience, knowing that, hey, if you're fundamentally believing that you're making an investment today that's going to impact you and your family in 5 and 10 and 20 years and help you live the life that you want to be living, the way you want to live it. It's just resources that you're able to use to live out the way you want to live, right? And if you believe that those assets are going to be worth more in the future than they are today, and we want to make sure that you're doing the things today to still be able to do X, Y, Z in the future, whatever those plans are. And
I was just going to say, I think we go over this a lot, or maybe we don't. We're happy to hear feedback.
Enough.
That's kind of what we're doing this for. Is we don't think any of those ideas that we just talked about are bad ideas. But we also don't think they're the best ideas. We think there's a combination that's specific to what your circumstances, I hate to keep saying it, what your goals and objectives are, that make the most sense. So we know what we do here. We know the time, the energy, the due diligence that we put into the portfolios. And again, this isn't me talking about all the great things that we do here per se, but we want to put that same energy in what you bring to us on ideas. And sometimes that takes some patience for us to digest that. It also takes patience that if we have a plan, like Nathan said, that's built for 5 years, we don't measure it in 5 days. We don't measure it in 5 months. We measure it in 5 years. That doesn't mean that we're not being proactive or dynamic or tactical or all those words along the way, because like anything else, and it's very trite to say a financial journey, but just like any trip that you take, things are going to happen along the way, right? You're not taking a shortcut. You're traveling on the turnpike or the highway. That doesn't mean that you ignore the risks that are out there and react to those risks in real time.
Yeah, you said something before. If you're on that highway and you're on that journey and there's a jam, there's something that's happened, but you see, oh, so-and-so is on the median here, shooting through here. Maybe I should consider that. But I mean,
and I've considered it.
Yeah, and I have too, and we all do. But there's a reason why, you're on the highway, you're not on some back road, or you're not on the side of the road. This has risks of its own, right? The path that you're on, but it's less risk. And obviously, we're planning for a lot of those things that are going to come along the way.
I think that you nailed it there, is that there's never an expectation when we create a plan for somebody that the market's positive every year over whatever that time frame is, 5 years, 20 years, 50 years. We work with foundations, 100 years, right? So we know things are going to happen along the way. In fact, if you've been listening to us or reading our newsletter, we're more surprised when things don't happen. We're more surprised when you have a longer period of time where there isn't a disruption. That actually gets us a little bit more nervous. But that's what we have in the plan. So when you have a negative month, a negative year, it doesn't feel good. But the plan's designed for that. We have an understanding of that. As usual, I'm getting us way off track.
No. I think it ties into, and I was just going to say, you had mentioned this earlier, before we were discussing what we were going to talk about today, just the time frame of the market's rebounds. We did this video 3-4 months ago. A lot of focus was on, hey, the turbulence in the market, the sell-off in the market, et cetera.
Yeah.
And a lot of that has now been, that's all been erased in terms of, a lot of the financial assets that were down 15 or 20%.
Yeah, and if you didn't have the patience, right? And we talk about our history with clients in the markets. We experienced this to a much more intense degree in 2008. We for sure had more difficult, more frequent conversations about negative market returns in 2001 and 2002. And
even more recently in 22.
Yeah, of course.
Right.
Yeah. And it's been lucky for us that a lot of people kind of listened to us. We gave them a perspective that maybe they weren't hearing outside of the conversations they were having with us, and they stuck with the plan. And thank God that, the recovery happened and things are different now than it was then.
And we can't ever tell you how soon it's going to be for the recovery. We can say historically, here's what happens, but we know that the recovery always does happen. Now, this year, the markets have recovered. There's still a lot of, you got that wide funnel. There's a lot of news coming in that can be worrisome.
Changes every day.
Right.
But changes over the weekend.
Yeah, right. It changes every 5 minutes. There's something new to possibly be worried about. But what we're telling you is that you have to kind of put a lot of that aside, to the left and to the right. See what I did there? To the left and to the right. You have to put a lot of that stuff aside and really understand that most, if not all of that deluge of information shouldn't be acted upon in that moment to shift what you're trying to accomplish in 5 and 10 and 20 years.
Sure, yeah.
Does that make sense?
It makes total sense. So I want to hit it one more time because I'm not as smart as I used to be. Thank God I have you here to help. So we want people, we know everybody that we work with is smart, but we also want to give some of the wisdom that we've learned over the years to maybe emphasize some things that we've seen that have helped people be above average when it comes to investing and maybe even their own life.
Yeah.
So fear of missing out was definitely one of them. I probably put that as number one.
Funnel in the filter and fear of missing out. You can order them whichever.
I think I did that because maybe I'm the most guilty of fear of missing out. The funnel and the filter, that's a little bit easier for me just because as I've gotten older, a benefit of getting older is I understand my habits, the good ones and the bad ones.
Yep.
And I feel like I've surrounded myself with people that help me offset my bad habits more than I did when I was younger. And maybe that's part of what it is that we're doing. Maybe that's the wisdom that we can input is maybe not everybody has, we're talking about 3 today, but there's probably a lot more that you need to be successful in life and investments. And if it's not me or it's not Nathan, if it's somebody on the team here that we can bring their expertise into that mix, we think that helps people be successful too. So fear of missing out, the funnel and the filter,
patience.
And then patience. Maybe patience, we save the best for last. I think that can be extremely difficult with how fast the world moves.
Sure.
The news cycle moves, the market moves. Having patience in the plan that a lot of people put their time and energy into to make sure it's successful.
Right. Knowing that, you might be tempted by some kind of
might
quote
be
unquote
100%.
rich,
idea
strategy. But we could definitely show you a way, will improve the probabilities of your long-term success, but it's just going to take time. It takes time in the market. We say that a lot. It's often used phrase, but time in the market, and it's proven out over and over again. We can show you the ways to do that as long as you stick to the course.
Yeah, so if there's something that you think we missed today on successful habits, please let us know. We'd love to incorporate those either into a future newsletter or a video or just incorporate them into our own lives. So we love to hear from you. We're always thankful that you take the time and energy to listen to what we have to say, maybe read some of the words that we put on paper, and hopefully you know that we're doing that for the betterment of all of us together.
Yeah, so we hope you have a great summer.
Happy 4th of July.
4th of July holiday. Safe travels if you're traveling, and we look forward to our next conversation.
See you next month.
Thank you.